Have you ever noticed moments like these? You drop your kid off at school in the morning, and right outside the gate, a few parents are chatting with cigarettes in their hands. You step into an elevator, a small, enclosed space, and there's that lingering, unmistakable smell of smoke. You board a train, clearly a non-smoking carriage, and yet, someone still sneaks in a quick puff. Even in forests, where any open flame is strictly forbidden, the ground is often littered with cigarette butts, some of them not even fully extinguished. For many people, these scenes have become completely normal. But here's the question. In a time when everyone already knows that smoking is harmful, why is it still so difficult to control smoking in China? Let's start with a number. China has around 300 million smokers. That's roughly the entire population of the United States. Now, it's not like China hasn't taken action. Back in 2005, China joined the World Health Organization's Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. In theory, that means China is part of the global effort to reduce tobacco use. And to be fair, some progress has been made. No smoking signs are becoming more common in public places. Some major cities have started to enforce stricter regulations. Even e-cigarettes have gradually been brought under regulation. But if you compare China to other countries, a clear gap starts to appear. In many places around the world, cigarette packages display graphic warning images, rotting lungs, diseased mouths, even direct depictions of death. In China, however, most cigarette packs still carry a simple line of text: smoking is harmful to your health. And that difference goes far beyond packaging. It reflects something much deeper: the complexity of enforcing tobacco control in reality. So where does the problem really lie? We can break it down into four key. First, scale. What does 300 million smokers actually mean? It means that roughly 1 in every 5 adults smokes. It means that no matter where you go, it's almost impossible to completely avoid secondhand smoke. And there's another layer to this. China has massive regional differences. In major cities, smoking restrictions may be taken seriously. But in many smaller cities and rural areas, enforcement is often much weaker. When the numbers are this large, any policy becomes incredibly difficult to implement. Second, economic interests. China's tobacco industry has a very unique structure. Put simply, the people who sell cigarettes are also the ones regulating them. The tobacco industry contributes enormous tax revenue every year. In some provinces, it's a major pillar of the local economy. So this creates a dilemma. On one side, public health. On the other, a stable and highly profitable source of income. And when those two collide, tobacco control tends to move slowly. Third, enforcement. A lot of people ask, if there are rules, why not just enforce them? Because in reality, enforcement is far from simple. In many cases, multiple government departments share responsibility. But that can also mean everyone can step in, or no one really does. Then there are practical challenges. It's hard to collect evidence. Enforcement is expensive, and the scale is huge. But perhaps most importantly, the penalties are too low. In some areas, smoking in a restricted place might cost you just a small fine, sometimes only a few dozen to a couple hundred yuan. For many people, that's simply not enough to make them stop. Fourth, culture. And this might be the hardest part to change. In many social situations, offering a cigarette is still seen as a gesture of politeness. In business settings, it's often a way to break the ice. Refusing a cigarette can sometimes even be seen as unfriendly. At the same time, public awareness of secondhand smoke is inconsistent. And when someone smokes in a public space, very few people are willing to step in and say something. Because everyone knows, it could easily turn into a confrontation. When you put all of this together, you get a complicated reality. It's not that there are no rules, it's that those rules are incredibly hard. So what are the consequences? First, health. Smoking is linked to a wide range of chronic diseases, cardiovascular conditions, lung cancer, even diabetes. And the people affected aren't just smokers themselves. Family members, co-workers, even strangers are all exposed to secondhand smoke. Second, the economic burden. By 2025, the total social cost of smoking in China is estimated to reach around 2.4 trillion yuan. That includes not only medical expenses, but also lost productivity due to illness. In other words, it's a cost borne by society as a whole. Then there's something often overlooked: fire risk. Smoking has long been a major cause of fires in China. Every year, roughly 7% of fires are linked to smoking-related behavior. A single carelessly discarded cigarette, but can sometimes lead to a disaster. And finally, social tension. The conflict between smokers and non-smokers is becoming more visible. Some people insist on their personal freedom. Others are fighting for something as basic as clean air. These disputes have increasingly spilled into public view. So when we come back to the original question, why is it so difficult to control smoking in China? There isn't just one answer. It's a public health issue, an economic issue, a governance issue, and a cultural issue, all at the same time. And when all of these factors overlap, the problem becomes incredibly complex. But maybe that's exactly why it's worth talking about. Because every step forward is not just about policy, it's about changing how people think. So here's the real question. What do you think is the biggest obstacle to banning smoking in China?